The second month of the year has arrived, and at the Prospector, we're covering it with news stories such as the hands of El Paso and love. That's right, we're gonna hear from one of our reporters over whether or not we should still ask our significant others to be our Valentine. On top of that, we'll also discuss the 1,500 troops that were deployed to the southern border, 750 of which are in El Paso, Texas. And finally, maybe by just looking at the host, you can guess that we're talking sports. That's right, season 12 of the Prospector Podcast starts now. We're taking some inspiration from our school's chant, Picks Up, by picking our mics back up for season 12 of the Prospector Podcast. I'm your host, Sebastian Perez-Navarro, and guess what? I got co-host Kristian Hernandez down to my left, Cameron Mason down to my right. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Of course, thank you for having us.
Now, I can't forget about the person next to me, staff reporter for the Prospector, Leah Austin, everybody.
Hi.
Who has possibly one of the coolest first stories that anyone can talk about. Am I right?
For sure, absolutely, yeah.
You got to speak to the mayor,
Yes.
and before we started, you told me that he gave you a tour of City Hall.
Yes.
Let me just ask, were you guys like best friends that day? What happened?
I honestly think so. I mean, just from the moment that we walked in, I was with our social media editor, Jimena, and I mean, just from the very moment that we entered his office, he was just the most genuine and welcoming and open like person that I've probably ever met. And so for him to just be so open and willing with, you know, his time, I mean, obviously he's a busy man, he's the mayor. So even just him agreeing to sit down with us and have a conversation was really meaningful for me.
I know for a first story, that's probably like maybe one of your biggest stories you probably
Yeah,
ever heard on.
I don't think like it can go above that. So yeah, for sure.
That's phenomenal.
Yes.
So, but let's get into what you guys spoke about.
Yeah.
For one, your audio piece is going to come in later after your interview, which stay tuned for that. But the first thing I want to ask you is, one of the main focuses on your story was about Renard Johnson's race.
Yeah.
He's the first African
Yes.
American mayor in El Paso.
Yeah.
How much does that mean to him personally? And what does that mean for a city that's predominantly Hispanic?
Yeah. So I think for him, it was just really inspiring and really meaningful, obviously, to be the first Black anything. He kind of emphasizes, you know, for a city that's predominantly Hispanic, that he is proud that, you know, we as El Paso were able to elect him and able to look past any race, and he was able to overcome any barriers or anything like that in order to be able to serve our city the way that he's doing. So, yeah.
Any other questions on the table? You guys are co-hosts for a reason. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I do have one question. Yes. Well, what was some of his policies or ideas that really interested you?
Oh, yeah. So, honestly, my, I guess, biggest thing going into the interview was immigration. With this administration that's coming in, I was really curious to see how he planned to, you know, handle any policies or any, you know, executive orders that may affect our city, being that we are a border town. But I think he has a very clear view on where we stand as El Paso. I don't think that he plans to let any policy or any executive order, you know, affect the way that we live in our city. I think a lot of people, and as he kind of mentioned, have a kind of skewed vision of El Paso and how we live.
Whoa. How did that get so loud is my question.
Speaking of the mayor.
Because it was coming from both my laptop and my computer. Sorry, guys.
That's an insane echo. You're good. No worries about that. I don't know if we should cut that or not, but we'll see. We'll see. But that's insane. Like, I've never heard a phone get that loud. I mean, it happens, though. I've seen a ton of interviews on, like, MSNBC or stuff like that, where they're interviewing the person, and it's like, I'm so sorry, guys. And they're, like, racing off to turn off their stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, don't even stress about it. But let's focus on policy real quick. One of Renard Johnson's promises throughout the entire election campaign was bringing economic growth to El Paso.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to make El Paso a hub for valuable industries.
Yeah.
He wanted to stop the brain drain, and he wanted to increase tourist attractions. Did you guys discuss any of those plans to put political ideas now into fruition now that he holds office?
I think it was definitely more general. I don't think that we got into any specifics about, you know, businesses. I think the main thing that we did get into was how the incoming businesses and whatever, you know, he plans on bringing to El Paso will affect our community. And so for me, that was really interesting because the other story that I did in the same week was about gentrification, which, you know, obviously commercialization, things like that, they have a really big impact on that phenomenon. And so just hearing him talk about like what his plans were as far as just making sure that, yes, he's going to bring in all of this economic value, you know what I mean? But the culture and the heart of El Paso will still be here. And so, yeah.
So being so close with him and getting to know him so much better, would you say that you're kind of hopeful for his presidency?
Yeah, I'm definitely hopeful for his term. I definitely think that I'm hoping that it will have a pretty great impact, you know, on El Paso as a whole. And even for me as a college student, you know, with him trying to bring in more opportunities and trying to bring in, you know, more job opportunities and stuff like that, stopping the brain drain. I think that's really important for me. I think it's really important for a lot of people on this campus. And so hearing him talk about that was really great.
Well, Leah, then I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, are you staying in El Paso after you finish your career in UTEP?
So honestly, as a sophomore, you know, I feel like I still have some time to kind of decide. I'm a pretty easygoing person. So for me, it's wherever the wind takes me. If in my senior year, I land the most amazing job here in El Paso, I will stay here for the rest of my life. And if somewhere else calls me, then I will go where.
Going with the flow,
Yeah,
I see.
exactly.
Leah, thank you so much for your time.
you.
Leah Austin, everyone. She's a staff reporter at The Prospector. You can check out her work on our website. Coming up next, her audio piece. And after that, we'll hear from Salma about how love is in the air. You're tuned into the Prospector Podcast.
On January 7th, Renard Johnson was elected as the first black mayor of El Paso. Graduating from the University of Texas at El Paso with a bachelor's degree in business administration, Johnson now occupies an office in City Hall. His plans include increasing the city's safety ranking, graduate retention, officer recruitment, job opportunity, and investments in tourism and recreation throughout the city.
And I'm so super proud of El Paso,
Right.
because El Paso, primarily, 82, 83% Hispanic,
Yeah.
has elected their first black mayor. And that shows you the city that we have, that you can be of any color,
Yeah.
any nationality, any gender. It doesn't matter that this city embraces you. And we've got to invite people to El Paso. We've got to shine that light on El Paso.
Exactly.
We've got to let them know that the narrative that they painted about our community it's just not true.
Right.
And come down and see us.
Right.
Let us take you to the restaurants. Let us walk
Right.
you around our downtown. Let us
course,
show
give you a
you
tour.
how beautiful we are.
Johnson encourages students to get outside their comfort zone, get involved, and play a part in shining this light on the city.
Welcome back to the Prospector Podcast. Next to me, Salma Paula Banca. Salma, it's an honor to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Salma's got one of the greatest stories, I think, in Prospector history. She started off as a work study, right? And then you worked your way up to contributor, if I'm correct, then a staff photographer, and you got to serve as photo editor last semester.
Yes, that's correct.
Literally, your story is amazing, Salma.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time, a super talented photographer. But right now, we want to ask you, not about photography, but about love.
Okay.
It's Valentine's Day season, guys. February. There's also 3 February babies in the Prospector. One of which we interviewed. The other one of which, Joseph Ezequiel Montero, was our live studio audience. He left, so we don't have one anymore. But we have Jess waiting for her interview, and Elias, who's locked in right now making an ad, and Avery to my right, who is working on homework, I think. I don't know. But nonetheless, we're talking about Valentine's Day, coming up in the new issue of The Prospector, an opinion piece on whether or not people should still ask their significant others to be their Valentine. Now, Kristian, do you have a significant other?
No, I do not.
Cameron, do you have a significant other?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Oh, that's not. I wasn't expecting it to be like this. I thought you,
You
were
had
going
no
to say
faith in
no.
me?
I thought
You didn't have any faith in me? That's crazy.
That was supposed to be the introduction for Salma because she does have a significant other.
we're
I was going to
rhetorical,
say
okay.
we need an expert. All right, how long have you been dating your significant other for?
3 months.
3 months. You had to
Yeah.
think about it. You couldn't just tell me. You had to think about it.
But I told you anyways, though. I got it, though. I got it registered, though. I
Yeah,
got
totally.
you. Yeah.
I'm going to press you on the name later. Nonetheless, Salma, our audience at the Prospector might know your boyfriend. His boyfriend's name, your boyfriend's name is David. And people might have been introduced because in Halloween, we made a little video about our costumes. You appeared as Sally, next to you, Lightning McQueen. So tell me, if David doesn't ask you to be your Valentine, what's your reaction?
I guess a little disappointed.
A little. A tad.
Yeah.
Can you speak into that mic a little
Oh,
more,
I'm
please?
so sorry.
No, you're
Yes.
good. No
Maybe
worries.
you can bring it up to you closer.
These are the Joe Rogan arms, by the
Yeah,
way.
hold it from here, and then you can move it around wherever
This
you
is-
want.
Like that?
Yeah.
Right into the microphone.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to release your anger.
Okay, you're right. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be very disappointed.
Very disappointed? All right.
Yes.
Let's see. So just give us a preview. What's your opinion on the issue of whether or not we should ask our significant others to be our Valentine? What can we expect in your article? And more thoroughly, what's morally correct and what isn't when it comes to Valentine's Day and its festivities?
Well, in my opinion, I think that it's important, especially because a hint into my story, as people go into relationships, less things are asked of them. Like you ask them on a first date, then you ask them to be your boyfriend, and then engagement, and so on. And the last thing you end up with is marriage. So a Valentine's Day, it's not necessarily a celebration of who asked who for what date or what, but it's celebration every year and a holiday. One more thing to ask, because as we grow older, again, we're not going to be able to ask anything more of a relationship. After marriage, I think that's all you can get. So I think asking your significant other to be your Valentine, it's a cute just way to reestablish that romance between the two people.
So are you saying that as a relationship grows older or with more time, Valentine's Day gives the significant other a chance to keep that love alive and well?
Yes, I believe so, especially because when you're in a marriage, you can get just caught up in the everyday life, kind of forget to do cute little things with your significant other, and Valentine's Day, I think, is a good way to reestablish that connection.
Something just simple but effective.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've been dating your significant other for 3 months, bro, all right? Salma, how long have you been dating David for?
For 2.5 years.
All right, there's a huge difference. So then, Cam, you as the new boyfriend, what are you expected to do on Valentine's Day? I imagine you got to show up with like a whole bouquet and stuff, right?
No, that's why I wanted to go all. I wanted to like go decently out for it for the first time.
Decent.
Yeah.
What does decently mean? Like decently is like
Decently, as in like nothing like too crazy, like nothing like crazy. You know what I'm saying? Since it hasn't been long, but something really nice and thoughtful, just so she feels special.
I got you the 20
Yeah.
pack of chocolates from Walmart.
See, that's what it's my
Yeah,
wingman
yeah,
right
yeah.
here.
Nice.
I appreciate that.
All right, how about you, Kristian? Your Valentine's Day. What's it gonna be like?
I don't know. I get way too busy, so I don't even think about that sometimes.
Way too busy.
So, even on my birthday, man, I just worked for my birthday.
Ah.
So I'm not a holiday guy like that.
When's your
but
birthday?
It was the 20th. Remember production week?
That was your birthday?
Yeah, that one.
We need to get Kristian a cake.
No, I talked to Avery about it because I'm not a type to.
Avery,
celebrate
can
my
we get
birthday like
Kristian a
that.
cake?
How about we do a February cake?
A February
Everyone
cake.
gets their cake.
That's true. We have. I already mentioned it. 3
Yeah.
February babies. That's Leah. It's Joseph, and it's me. I'm not gonna say when though, because I want to keep that a mystery. But we're getting off the topic of love, guys. All right. This is an article about an opinion piece of whether or not we should ask other people to be our Valentine. Salma, does gender matter when asking someone else to be your Valentine? Like, can you go ask David to be your Valentine, and would David take a problem with that, or in any relationship at all?
I think it depends, but in my relationship, I don't think it matters whether it's the guy or the girl. I would love to ask him to be my Valentine. Maybe this could be my way. Who knows?
Will you ask him? You could do it. I mean, you have a platform to do it.
That's true. I will take advantage of that.
But you haven't asked him yet.
Well, maybe this could be it. I don't know. But no, I don't think it's gender specific.
Okay.
It's really just what the couple is comfortable with.
So, like, what are some ways to ask a significant other to be a Valentine? As pre-mentioned with Cam, would David ask you to be your Valentine the same way that Cam would ask his significant other to be his Valentine? Or is it different because of how long those relationships have been going for?
Mm-hmm. I don't think how long you've been with your partner matters. Honestly, for me, the simplest way could just be face to face, or it could be through a letter or like a cute little gift. I'm kind of a simple gal, so
Well,
anything that's genuine, especially like face to face, even I'm happy with that.
well, one of the biggest things is that we're in college. We don't have a lot of money.
That's true.
Like, what do you get, right? You can't go to like the bougiest chocolate and get that for someone unless you're getting married, right? Like, what do you make? What do you get? Macaroni pictures, maybe? What? Give me some ideas, guys. Let's float some out there.
Alright,
Honestly,
what's the best gift you got for Valentine's Day?
I've gotten flower Legos.
Flowers?
See,
Okay.
that's creative.
But it's
That's nice.
Legos.
But it's Legos.
It's
though.
Legos.
Those are really
Like
cool.
Legos ain't
Yeah.
cheap.
They don't
you know?
die.
I think
They were the great value Legos.
no,
They were blocks.
no, they were like the small ones. But even that, they were probably like less than $20, I think.
Okay,
Something small, like a handwritten letter, could be an idea.
that's cute.
You can go to the Dollar Tree, just get a little teddy bear. Honestly, for a lot of girls, like gifts that are not that expensive don't matter. It's just being genuine and showing your effort.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So I want to ask you guys, how are you guys spending your Valentine's Day? Kristian's spending it like the Grinch. Oh, I'm gonna work. Salma, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Well, it's not confirmed, but we're hoping to go to La Perla.
What's
in
that?
the plaza. It's a bar at the very rooftop of the Plaza Hotel.
A bar.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How old are you? Oh, you're
We're both 22. Just to
okay.
clarify.
22. See, I thought when I first met Salma, she told me that she was 21, I think, or 22, and my reaction was, "You're 20?" Like I thought she was. I thought she would be like around 19. So
I
I'm sorry.
appreciate that, but no.
Cam, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Great question. I need to plan that out.
Wow.
I don't.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
You have a 3-month significant other, and you don't have a plan for Valentine's Day.
I got the gifts planned out. I just need to the actual day.
Is she gonna be watching this podcast?
Hopefully not. So then I can surprise her. What we gonna do?
Hopefully no. Just hey, Cam's significant other, if you're watching this, just know that he doesn't have a plan. If you're watching or listening to it, because we have a ton of outlets, YouTube, Spotify, the website, you name it, Cam's getting exposed. Hey Sebastian, what are you doing for Valentine's Day? Thank you for asking. Invisible voice.
I was
You were
going
gonna
to ask you.
Alright.
to ask you.
I'm doing the most romantic thing possible. I'm competing in debate. So in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
I'll wear a red tie and call it a day.
It's time to press you a little
You
bit,
meet
though. You
someone.
Press me?
Yeah, press
About
you a
what?
little- you got anybody?
No,
No?
I am a single lad. I'm a single lad whose story can be told another day at another time. This is not that platform to do so. But it's a funny story if you want to hear it, but not now. But yeah, all right. Any other questions for our love expert, Salma?
I can't think of any right now.
You know what? I'm going to ask you something. Last question,
All right.
because we're spending too much time on this.
Okay.
Is it valid to ask your mom or your dad to be your Valentine, since not everyone has a significant other, or a cousin, a sister, a brother, you name it?
I think definitely. I think Valentine's Day doesn't have to be just romance. It can definitely be a place to celebrate platonic love, like with your parents or with your friends.
Nice.
Okay, I changed my answer with my mom then.
Your answer is your mom?
She'll be my Valentine.
So you just thought of that because we brought up the topic. He wasn't genuine.
Well, it's because I just, I'm a bit closed-minded about.
Hey, Miss
Valentine's Day.
Hernandez, you hear that? Your son is only asking you to be his Valentine because he got the idea from me. Come on,
Or
Kristian.
from Sama, and
From
she inspired
Sama.
me to.
Yeah.
What are you gonna get your mom? Come on.
Ooh, I don't know.
Make up for the gift.
Something peanuts related because she loves the peanuts and we connect on the peanuts. Something about that. Or I may even make her something,
You're gonna make her something?
Yeah.
Oh, you can cook up?
You
a
can
little
cook?
bit like fresco con crema. That'd be nice.
Ooh. All right. Kristian, I want some food for my birthday. All right. Nonetheless, Salma, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate our talk and conversations about love. It is the February edition of the Prospector Podcast. This podcast is bi-weekly, but since we're starting in February, we got to start with talking about Valentine's Day. Salma, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I had fun.
You're tuned in to the Prospector Podcast. Don't go anywhere. We've got more conversations coming up next. Welcome back to the Prospector Podcast. We're taking a bit of a swivel from love, now focusing on our own city, El Paso, Texas. One of the executive orders of President Trump was for the Department of Defense to send 1,500 troops to further act on the southern border, 750 of which are estimated to be in El Paso, Texas. To tell us more is staff reporter for the Prospector, Jess Garcia, who, fun fact, isn't a stranger in my life because her dad taught me math for 9 weeks. It wasn't even a whole semester or a whole year. It was 9 weeks. He taught me geometry. I didn't learn much, but I liked his energy. He's a great person. But our conversations about stuff like the history of zero and math in general just confuses me. But Jess, it is an honor to have you.
Thank you. My dad says hey.
Is he watching right now?
I told him I was working with you today. He sends his love.
Mr. Garcia, I send you the best. Maybe you should get some decorations for your room. You know, a new coat of paint, a poster. Because your dad's room, he's had it for, I believe, 2 years now. Because he was being flip-flopped throughout the entire school. For context, me and Cam went to Eastwood. We graduated in June.
Cam, did you know my dad?
I didn't. I never had him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
How
I was
dare
like, this
you.
would be crazy.
How
I didn't
dare
have him.
you?
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I'm
No,
sorry.
that's not, we cannot, no.
I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia.
All right, nonetheless, switching back on topic. Jess, this week you were assigned to cover the troops being sent towards El Paso. What have you seen that has been the reaction of the city so far?
So I actually went to the protest that was at Memorial Park yesterday evening, which I feel is a good, what's a good word? I think it's a good representation of a lot of the city's reaction. I think the city is very angry. I say this myself, and I hear from everyone around me. There's a lot of fear-mongering and there's a lot of misconception of what happens at the border. You know, government officials try saying that it's dangerous and there's drugs and there's illegal immigrants coming in and they're making the place dangerous. But I've lived here all 20 years of my life and I've never felt significantly or in danger at all here. I think the community is very loving and very safe. And people who don't live here don't know that. Like, people who have never been here don't understand the type of community we have here. So yesterday at the protest, I saw the general reaction of the city and the people who are passionate about this. They were angry. You know, this is going to cause some detrimental damage to our home. And I don't know, people are just very passionate. They're showing up in ways that we haven't really seen before.
Have there been people whose family members have been separated from them or haven't been able to come live with them in El Paso due to situations like the CBP one shutting down and causing thousands of migrants to lose their asylum appointments?
So I haven't talked to anyone specifically who has been directed by this mass deportation that's happening right now. But yesterday I did speak to a young woman, and she told me that this issue is very personal to her because her parents were deported when she was 12 years old. So this is very touching for her. This is something that she needs to speak out against, and this is something that she feels she needs to protest for because it has separated families, and it will do so in a mass amount if it doesn't stop now.
And I kind of want to get on that first topic you had, that how the border is right now, because we live right next to the border. I don't know who's going to listen to this, whether they're out of town or not students here. The Sunbelt parking garage is right next to the border. We see the border every single day, or even on Loop 375. We're always driving next to the border at all times. And we're so comfortable with it, you know? And we're such a diverse city with, 80% Hispanic community, right?
About like 80 to 90%, I believe.
So it's more like we're a bit of a fluid border because we have such a culture tie to Juarez. And I believe you're really right on that.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that. I had a friend who came down here. He once told me that it's as if Juarez and El Paso are one big city. We're all one big community and like a family. We always help each other out. You know, people come from Juarez to work here. We go over there for groceries. We go over there for work as well. And there's a lot of support within each other. And yeah, people who aren't from here, people who have never experienced life here don't realize that, don't take that into account.
Recently, the Immigration Customs Enforcement was granted permission to go and find migrants in areas that were previously protected. Now they're not. Those are schools, churches, etc. Ikanoti UISD already responded saying that they were going to continue to teach students in schools. But as you were alluding to, Kristian, us being so close to the border, just how does that change our situation of living for some families who maybe are in those living circumstances to be a little precautious?
So I know specifically for families who live in the rural areas of El Paso, like where the rural school districts are, so like the Canutillo area, like Tornillo, Fabens, Socorro-ish, those are rural areas where a lot of these families, they work in the fields, they do manual labor in order to survive, and their survival a lot of the time relies on the entire family being included in this work. And now there's a lot of fear in the air of what will happen to them if they continue to go to work. That's a hot spot for ICE and law enforcement to go to. So it causes a lot of them to stop going to work, to not go to work at all, which causes financial issues for them, which causes financial issues for the area, eventually the country as a whole. And it's not even about financial issues at some point. It's more about, they can't support their family. They can't support themselves. They can't go to work. A lot of students might have to stop going to school. And education is so important, especially in times like this, which I could dive into more right now. But it'll just halt life for a lot of people, which is not something that's optimal for them and their conditions.
I guess since you were going to say you're going down more the education route, I think that's really important. And because they're taking that away, what would you have gained from people that you interviewed or talked to at the protest about that subject per se?
So education is super, super important, right? I already emphasized that.
Yeah.
Like I said, the kids who are going to these schools, which might be hotspots for ICE raids, may not go anymore. And a lot of these people who I saw at the protest, there were a few speakers at the protest that talked about how we need to get educated on our history and the issue that's happening right now. And I personally think that we definitely have to emphasize the history of the Mexican-American community, of a lot of communities of color in school, because that way we learn what has happened to us and how to fight back. But unfortunately, like another thing, the Trump administration Trump just signed an executive order on sorry, I blanked out. But basically, they're working on no longer having any kind of ethnic studies in school. They want to enforce something called the 1776 Commission, which is patriotic learning, which means children of color won't really learn where they come from anymore. They learn a different narrative where they're the bad guys. And, that really affects the community. That really affects how we see ourselves and what we fight for.
So does in any way is our university affected by the lack of protected areas, knowing our proximity to the border, and now that anything can happen anywhere at any place?
So I can't lie, I don't have too much insight on UTEP right now, but I do know that a lot of students here at UTEP come from Juarez and come from the border. They cross over every day to come get their education, and that'll put a halt to their education too, unfortunately. And not only ICE raids, there was a recent order to put a temporary freeze on FAFSA and a lot of other government aid, and that also caused a frenzy. A lot of our students here, this is a safe space for them. This is where they come to get their education. They have their resources to come here. So things like this, it really just stops them. We might see students drop out. We might see students not come anymore. And it's pretty saddening because we do have programs here that really help them and really teach them about themselves, and they won't have access to that anymore because of this.
Jess, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
Jess Garcia, staff reporter at The Prospector, a 4-year student who's majoring in multimedia journalism. Thank you so much. Anything else to add?
Fun fact, I just changed my major.
You did? At 4 years?
I changed to a double major.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still majoring in multimedia journalism, and now I'm a double major with Chicano studies.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice. So what's the plan after UTEP? Estimated time for graduation, dream career, stuff like that?
So I tell everyone that journalism isn't really the end goal for me. I love doing it. I love doing this, and I would love to do it while I continue my education.
But you want to be a math teacher, like your dad.
Of course, I love math. But I want to go into education and academic research in the long run and help communities of color, disadvantaged communities in their education, because as I emphasized today, it's super important to know where you come from and have good policy to emphasize that.
Thank you for your time, Jess. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're discussing UTEP basketball. Don't go anywhere, and don't take off your headphones if you're watching this and or listening to this, because you're tuned in to the Prospector Podcast. Welcome back to the Prospector Podcast. You might see a familiar face next to me. That's right, Salma's back again. Guess who's batting on it? You guys don't like my singing? Wow.
No.
All right. Wow. Blatantly no. Blatantly no. Wow. All right. Nonetheless, you can maybe tell by the host you have, but we can't forget to talk about sports. And we're talking UTEP basketball. Salma, you've photographed UTEP basketball a ton of times, but what people may not know about you is that you've played on the hardwood.
I have in high school and middle school. Yeah.
What school? What high school was it for?
Oh, a small private school called Emmanuel Christian School.
You went to Emmanuel?
I did.
Oh, that's nice.
Is that what are the colors again? Is it like maroon?
I think
Blue.
Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors.
Golden State
Blue and
Warriors.
gold.
And our mascot are Warriors too.
Oh,
Wow.
never mind. I thought I knew.
So what team do you root
Never
for?
mind.
The Warriors?
Yes, that was our mascot.
But
For Mexico.
NBA team.
Oh no, I did not play for them.
Oh. No, but what team do you root for?
Oh, sorry. The Lakers, because my dad's a Lakers fan.
So you went to a school that's named the Warriors, that has the colors of the Warriors, and you root for the
Yeah.
Lakers.
Yes.
Come on, man. I can't stand for that.
Well, who do you go for?
I go for the Heat, Miami Heat.
Okay.
And that's not a
respectable. I respect that
bandwagon.
lot.
I'm not bandwagoning because of LeBron. I was born there. So
Okay.
me being a fan is valid.
Yeah.
Which now they're struggling with Jimmy Butler. But we're not talking about national basketball. We're talking about UTEP basketball. Kristian, you were at the thriller of a game where UTEP beat Kennesaw State literally in the last second. It seems as though the nails of UTEP fans are gone. They did the same thing against Liberty. They win last minute. What is going on from the perspective you've seen, and Salma, from your perspective of playing before, of this UTEP basketball team who's looked weak at times, especially in their loss against NMSU, but since then has only lost one game and have been able to keep the boat steady towards a first-place spot in CUSA?
Well, I have a little fun fact about you. I actually did play basketball in high school.
You did?
Yeah.
What school?
Irvin High School.
Irvin.
Yeah.
You were a Rocket.
Yeah. Just for freshman year though. I didn't score any points.
So your leaps weren't as high as a Rocket, because if they were, you would have stayed on after freshman.
Maybe.
Was that bad? Oh my God. I'm sorry.
I had a lot of problems in high school.
Some people
you know?
get injuries, you know.
Did you get injured?
No, I did not. I continued playing afterwards. Like I went back
Okay.
into it. I took a huge hiatus.
Because you're tall, dude. How tall are you?
6'1", but you're taller than me. Aren't you like 6'1"?
Yeah, but I have no athletic ability.
Oh.
That's the difference. By the way, I came repping. I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna make sure it shows.
Zoom in.
Like, we're gonna have to zoom in on this.
Move to your left.
Yeah, let's see. All right.
There it is.
Kinda.
Yeah.
It's the UTEP logo, but you can't see it because of this little microphone next to me. But just know that I came representing. We got to get into the UTEP basketball games, guys.
Yeah.
First of all, their game against Kennesaw State, what you see from the ground, Kristian?
From what I saw, well, with any teams, like this is D1. These
Yeah.
are all D1 teams. There are over 100 D1 teams in college basketball, D1, 1A teams. For the minors, I think they have a lot of potential from what I see. It's always about mistakes. When you're at this high of a level, it's always a 1% difference. But when you're at this high level, that 1% changes a lot, and that means so much more in sports. So they're 5-2 right now in the conference. They're tied for third place, or there's three teams. There's three-breaker tie. That's Middle Tennessee and Jacksonville State. I think they have a lot of potential going in. It's all about making mistakes, making minimal mistakes with that, being a team players together, and having that team chemistry. Because what I see on the court, because I'm also doing photography for them.
Yeah.
I was writing that story for Kennesaw State. You can see.
But that
The
team that they
dynamic
lost
coming
to
in.
was Jacksonville State. So when tiebreakers come into play, Jack State is also at 5-2. UTEP can't blow their next one, because if they do, they can very well be the second place team in the conference. Not like that matters, because at the end of the day, you still have to go through an entire tournament for March Madness, but it's still a good sign of how the team is doing and if they're able to win those close games.
Of course. And if they win the conference for Conference USA, their ticket is punched in for the bracket
Almost
to go
definitely.
dancing, because it's all
Yeah.
64 teams. They get in and they're all good to go.
Yeah.
So if they're able to beat these teams, I think they're very capable of beating these teams. They have a very good core, especially with David Terrell Jr., Kevin Kalu, the center, and this one other player who I need to find real quick, Elijah Jones, Derek Hamilton. They have good bigs out there. They can definitely play well. It's all about just making minimal mistakes. That's all you can say about it. It's being consistent. Because against Jack State, they just lost it at the end. They really did, you know? You're right for that game.
Yeah,
you remember that?
I was there.
At the end?
They definitely went on I think after, who dunked it? After, there was like a dunk. They went on this little run, and then after that, Jack State just gained all the momentum. They were hitting tough shots after tough shot, and it just kind of killed momentum that whole entire time, and they couldn't buy a bucket. So I guess, it just, like you said at the beginning, it just, those little mistakes just separate, because they have the talent, they have the roster. I really do think they have a good roster to compete for a March Madness run, but it's just them minimalizing those mistakes can be the factor if they win their conference or not.
It really is the little things. Little things equals winning games, and winning games equals dancing.
Salma, let me know if my memory doesn't serve me correct, but I can remember that you were at the women's basketball opener. That was against Tarleton State, correct? You were taking photos for that one.
From last semester?
Yes, last semester. Since then, UTEP's 2-5 in their conference. They're not in a good standing. They're second to last place. But from what you saw from them, are they going to be able to make a run going forward? I mean, they've only played 7 conference games so far. The season isn't over for the women's side, but they've lost tough battles. They were able to beat out Sam Houston by some point margin, but then lost it to LA Tech, NMS State, Liberty. All of those are hindering UTEP. But based on your firsthand perspective and what you saw from Tarleton State, is this UTEP women's basketball team, led by Keitha Adams, one that is capable of making a run?
I think they definitely have potential. I've been to a few of their games. I've seen their highs and lows, and I think Kristian made a good point right now that it's all about consistency. And I think if they're consistent enough in their plays, they're good in their defense, I think they could have potential.
Now, one of the things that we need to worry about, and this is something that could spread throughout all of UTEP sports, is consistency, right? UTEP was going into the game against NMS State undefeated. It was a huge rivalry game. It was the first time that they were entering undefeated in their conference since the early 1900s. And then UTEP, in front of a sold-out crowd, just fell flat. Their points weren't going in. Their shooting outside the perimeter just wasn't good. It seemed as though they just disappeared. Luckily, they were able to bounce back. They beat Liberty by a slim margin off a buzzer beater and then went on to beat FIU on the road. They've only lost one game ever since, and that's to Jack State. So is consistency a cause of concern for UTEP, or at least on the men's side? Has Joe Golding at least instilled on his team, hey, whatever happened against NM State can't happen again, or else we're done?
Well, I think that's a great point. One thing is, you can be the best team in the world, but if you don't show up, you don't show up. And that shows on the record, and that record shows everywhere else. No one's going to care in the middle of the game or the whole story plot, but it's like, oh, they were doing really good in the third quarter or the second half, and then they just lost it. Well, no one's going to care at the end. You have to show up. That's all that matters. Whether it's a sold-out crowd or no one's there, you have to show up for the game. That's all that really matters for them, you know? And do you want to talk about the women's sports, or do you just also want to just keep talking about men's sports?
Talking about both, man.
Both?
Yeah,
well,
dude.
I think one thing that did happen, I believe it was Jack State. Do you remember, Cameron? It was Corey Camper Jr. He suffered an injury.
He did.
I believe it seemed like maybe his Achilles. I'm not entirely sure about that.
He definitely landed weird on that ankle, for sure.
Yeah, I remember that was really hard hit. He's a 6'5" guard. He's a senior from Little Rock, Arkansas. I remember seeing him in the Kennesaw games that he had a boot on. And I really feel for him, you know, because being an athlete and then taking those injuries, I don't know if you have had any injuries, Salma, but it's really tough on you. It's one of the most depressing times that you can go through for camp. So I hope he recovers quick. I hope he can do fine on the rest of his journey, and I hope he can support his teammates throughout. You know, that's what I'm hoping for, because he's a guard. I hope he can, you know, mentor David Terrell Jr., who's a sophomore right now. He's one of the main point guards, and Ahmad Bynum, I believe he's a junior as well. So I hope they can help them out, because those are really, really tough guards. They're really good on defense. They're really good on offense. And they can just help boost this team. When they already have good bigs going on, they can have really good guards going on,
Most
too.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, if you want to make a big run, you have to rely on definitely big play, which we have. But if your guards aren't able to knock down any shots or any type of defense, you need that to make a good run and have a chance. So they definitely would like to have Corey back as fast as they can. Yeah. But hopefully speedy recovery.
Mm-hmm. And no matter what this team looks like, or it's like, they don't look like they're able to get into these big four schools, the Big 12, Big 10, whatever it is. If they show up, they show up. That's all that matters. Because you hear like some Cinderella runs like Seton Hall or Oral Roberts coming into the dance a couple years back. They make it in really big. Or Loyola College from Chicago. You just have to show up. That's all that matters. That really all that matters.
And showing up right now is most important for the UTEP's women's basketball team because we already went over their standings. Their run starts today against Western Kentucky University. That game's going to be played before this podcast is released, so we don't know the score of that yet and where they stand. But as of now, as of we're filming, UTEP still has 11 conference games to go. They can still bounce back. Yet, who do we look at as the key playmakers for UTEP's women's basketball to make a run?
I would say the center in Mbake. I want to make sure I'm saying her name correctly. She's the center, number 13. Mbak. That's how you say her name. She's actually from Italy. She's a junior. And from what I see, okay, this might be a controversial take. Those centers in women's basketball are a lot more physical than men's basketball. Because I've seen elbows thrown. I've seen everyone's trying to fight for the ball. From what I say. And then when you're that close up, you're just, oh my God.
Oh, and Keith Adams is in practice?
Yeah.
My goodness, can't.
She was she was intense.
And she's super nice in person. I mean, we interviewed her, very accommodating, very nice, having a conversation. And then in practice, my goodness, I was scared. But like, it's not a problem of attitude though. And I feel as though that's something that people point to. It's, their attitude. That's why they're losing. That's not the problem with UTEP's women's basketball for either coach at all. Sanma, you know the gruel of practices. I mean, how strict do you have to be as a coach in order for your players to stay consistent, especially considering that they're students?
Oh, man. Well, from my experience, it was no joke. Like, if you were not feeling good that day, like, meanwhile, you got to keep going. You had to be disciplined, not only with your coach, but, like, with yourself. Being consistent, being kind of like hard on yourself. So I'm like impressed by student athletes, like doing school, managing that full time, and then coming back to go in to the court. Sorry, I forgot the word. Yeah, it's definitely a lot, but I applaud them because I think it's really cool to be able to do both.
It's a large stretch for UTEP basketball. Saturday, February 8th, probably the biggest day of the season for both programs. UTEP women's basketball hosts the New Mexico State Aggies at home. Meanwhile, the UTEP men's basketball program goes to the road to face the team in which they got beat by at home. Their first loss in CUSA, which caused concerns. Look out for any other recap articles and more coverage on the Prospector. We're talking our website, we're talking YouTube, we're talking Instagram, we're anywhere and everywhere. So, but for now, that wraps up our basketball talk. Kristian, Sanma, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Well, you've been here for the whole time, so I appreciate you.
I'm always grateful.
Kristian, so humble. What a humble man. All right. When we come back, it's over. That's it. That's really it. There is no coming back. Well, no. That's existential. We'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back though.
We'll be back bi-weekly, remember. So that was the transition we need to get to. This was our last segment of the day. Cam, it was honor co-hosting with you. Kristian, it was honor having you on as a co-host. Sanma, it was great to have you as a guest two times. So nonetheless, Season 12 of the first episode of Prospector Podcast. I'm popping the P's there. The first episode of Season 12 of the Prospector Podcast has come to a wrap. Before you end off, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to our Instagram and also follow us there. Also, follow us on Spotify. Why not? We are literally anywhere and everywhere. Look out for content on our website, our YouTube channel, and socials. You can find us on Instagram, X, YouTube, and our website. I repeat that so that you could go do it. Nonetheless, I'm your host, Sebastian Perez-Navarro. We are extremely grateful for your time, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. We're over and out.